Go live. We're live.
Hello.
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 Good day.
Full screen. Okay. Open this up on my phone so I can also see that. Right. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Costuming at Large panel. Let's see. We are all costumers. I think we all do historical or historically flavored stuff, if not true historical. And we're all not straight-sized, so we're and we're all different shapes too. So that's also fun. Like, plus size people are not all plus size the same way, and there's all kinds of variation within all of this. So one quick note, I know it is late. I am so happy that everyone is here at this late time, as well as everyone who's watching. Like, yeah. I promise this video is going to stay up forever. I'm not going to be taking it down after we finish. So, you know, those of you who are in time zones like Europe who are in bed right now, this will still be here later, so you can watch it then. Is there anything else we need to go over before we start? If you have any questions, toss them in the live chat. Faye is being awesome and keeping an eye on that for us, and we will do our best to get to questions at the end. We're aiming to do this in about somewhere between 60 and 90 minutes, so, you know, an hour and a half, because it is late. And some people have work in the morning, so we're going to do our best. I'm going to try and keep my eye on the clock. All right, so let's start with introductions. I will go first, and then I will go through who's on the screen, at least in the order I can see everyone in. So, my name is Adrienne. This is my channel, obviously, Miss Philomena. I have been costuming and sewing for myself since high school, so a very long time now. I was, you know, super skinny as a kid, but then, you know, puberty hit and kept hitting. I generally, in ready-to-wear sizes, I am like an 18-20, but in patterns, I am usually a 24-26. And I tend, like, you know, I think Melissa is the only one who actually can use, like, the big 4 patterns without altering. So a lot of us have gone through that, too, of the frustration, but I'm getting ahead of myself, sorry. I am also probably like kind of an hourglass shape, although I am a little more top heavy. I'm busty, and I am squishy, so like that is useful for doing historical costuming because I can put a corset on and squish down, and I know not everyone else can. So I do have that advantage in my body, but not everyone does. So, and I'm pretty steady on my size. I don't tend to fluctuate a lot within measurements. So that's me. I'm going to go to Sarah because you are in the top left on my screen.
Sounds good. I'm Sarah Bent. My channel is Sarah Bent, which is convenient. I am kind of a newbie in the costumer world. I really didn't realize it was a thing you could do until costumes started happening. I was like, what do you mean? People just make these things just because they want to? That's awesome. Now I can too. I was a very skinny kid who turned into a very curvy teen. And then I had kids, and now I just personally describe my figure as a pumpkin on stilts. I'm very round in the torso with skinny-ish legs. In straight sizes, I wear anywhere an 18-20, depending. And in patterns, I really varies depending on what it is for, because, as I said, my figure's not kind of what that classic hourglass that people think plus size people come in. So it can really vary depending on the outline of the pattern, the cut. So yeah.
Melissa, do you want to go next?
Sure. My name is Melissa. No, I'm just trying to put headphones in because I realized I didn't do that. Oops. My name is Melissa. My channel is So Biased. That's SEW, biased. I do mostly 1940s and mid-century clothing. I'm also an opera singer, and I do opera costuming. I learned to sew in home economics in grade 7, where I taught myself to make a Star Trek uniform, because I'm like, wait, you can make your own clothes and just wear them, and like no one will stop you? Which was amazing for me. For me, I was kind of in a similar situation to Adrian and Sarah. Of puberty hit me like a freight train, and I went from being the smallest kid in my class in grade 7 to the starting basketball player of the basketball team in grade 9. I was about 5'9" by the time I got to grade 9, and a C cup, and by the time I got to grade 11, I was 5'11" and an H cup. So as Adrian mentioned, I'm about a size 12 except for boobs. I'm about a size 16, and that's after a reduction where I lost 5 pounds, and I'm still a D cup. So talk to me about your full bust adjustments, because let me tell you.
Rebecca?
Hi, I'm Rebecca. My channel is Pocketful of Poseys. I have been sewing really for myself, I've been sewing since about 2011, so not too long. And one year I decided I was going to make a Halloween costume and never stopped. So that's kind of what happened. I am also an opera singer, and I teach voice and piano lessons by day. And as far as sizes go, my ready-to-wear sizes, I'm a 26-28, and so pattern, who knows, 32, I don't know. They don't come in it usually. So I almost always have to do some adjustments, and not squishy at all. Not much at all. I get maybe an inch reduction in my corset. And I think it's my singer's lungs. Mm-hmm. My rib cage is wide.
Yeah, bones don't compress.
No. So, and yeah. Was there any other thing I should add to that? I guess that's it.
Odessa?
Hello. So I'm Odessa of Odessa Denby, the YouTube channel. So I think my experience is actually really similar. So apparently it's not that uncommon to go from like being like tiny and underweight to puberty, and suddenly your doctor's like, what happened? Like in a year. So yeah, puberty, again, I started kind of gaining a lot of weight, and by high school was probably like a size 12, which to me at the time was like, oh, a tragedy. But now as an adult, I'm extremely pear-shaped. So like from the waist up, I can kind of pass for straight sized, or wear the bigger straight size clothing, like large, extra large. So like maybe a 14 on top, depending on the item, but on the bottom, I'm like a 20. It's like a very, very stark difference. I think my hips are like 20 inches bigger than my waist. Kind of ridiculous. I remember being at the Met Museum in New York, and they had these figurines of like ancient fertility goddesses with these crazy hips, and I was like, ha. And I like snapped a picture and sent it to my husband, like, it me. And then just as the tour guide was saying, like, her very exaggerated proportions, and I was like, okay, I'm right here, sir. Like, this is real. As far as costuming goes, in all kind of through school, I was in music and theater. And so I got interested in costuming a little bit then, but it wasn't really something I had time for as an adult, having to have a job and stuff. So it wasn't until around 2019 that I really started to get back into it and decide I needed to learn how to properly sew, because all these like beautiful clothes out there that just didn't come in my size, that, you know, so many things are closed off to you aesthetically if you're above like a size 8 or 10. And I wanted to wear the pretty clothes. So I decided I had to start learning to sew and kind of touching on costuming again with that as well.
All right, Katie, it's your turn.
Hello, I'm Katie. My channel is Latina Living History, and I have been sewing since the Lord of the Rings trilogy came out. That was my entry into costuming, and looking at something and being like, I need to have that on my body. And Adrian very unkindly pointed out that that was like 20 years ago now.
No, what I pointed out is that they're taking the hobbits to Isengard is 16 years old.
Yeah. Okay. Yep, that's fine. Still rude. But I have been plus size or bigger than my peers my entire life. I was always the chunky kid. And like looking back at photos, I was a perfectly normally sized child. But I grew up in a very heavily German and Dutch area, so people were very slim and very tall. And I am a hobbit. So I always kind of felt like that I was the outlier. And I topped out at 5'2". And I actually don't know what my measurements are now because they have fluctuated due to the pandemic and a recent bout of pretty bad mental health problems involving medication that really screwed with my body. Like, they've helped my brain immensely, but like, I don't know what my body's doing. It's just doing its own thing. So right now I think in like off the rack sizes, I'm between a 2 and 3X. But I am also busty, so I have to get things bigger for my boobs. I am squishy, but as I've gotten older, I've also developed sensory issues with pressure around my abdomen. So I typically don't squish down as much as my body can, just for personal comfort. And that's been kind of interesting to see how that's changed over the years. Because when I was younger, I didn't care. Like, I didn't have those sensory things. So, you know, I've been plus size the whole time, but the way that I relate to my body has changed over the years. I'm good.
Amber?
Hey everyone, I'm Amber. I don't have a channel, but I'm RX Ninja on RX Ninja 76 on Insta, and I'm a pharmacist by day, and that's the RX. But the rest of me, the historical costuming, has been a new thing for me. I'd say probably the past 3 or 4 years or so, not including Renaissance fairs when I was younger. I've been sewing.
Longer than that because we met more than 4 years ago. I'm pretty sure.
Adrian, stop bursting people's bubbles.
Okay, my sense of time sucks, but like, all right, okay, so maybe about 5 years ago. I blame my bestie Laura, who is like, here, why don't you do this? So admittedly, I sew under both duress. I hate to sew, and I sew under duress. I only do it because, you know, I can't just buy stuff to put on my body. Both because of the size and because of the costumes that I want to wear. Otherwise, I really wouldn't be sewing. If I could buy it, then I would do that. So I'm not a great sewer, and I'm usually the person that's leaving things to the very last minute. I can't hand sew at all, so my historical accuracy is, you know, terrible. And it started out with like some steampunk stuff, and then, you know, it's a slippery slope, and next thing you know, someone's suggesting, oh, why don't you try this full Victorian gown? And I'm like, okay, but I'm never doing 18th century, and as I'm now making my 3 millionth petticoat right now.
Yeah, I said I'll never do 1830s, and now the next thing I'm doing is learning 1830s from Adrian.
Exactly. One thing leads to another. Body type, I call myself a snowman, or maybe a palm bottle. I'm very snowmanish. I was also really small as a kid, as a teen, actually even as an adult. I used to run 7 miles a day. I was in the Navy, and I played volleyball in college. And then I realized that I didn't have to run 7 miles a day anymore, and so I didn't. But I still eat like I run 7 miles a day. And so, you know, everything kind of expanded. I don't have like any hips to speak of, but my posterior region sticks out a good 7 or 8 inches in the back. And the front, I had a breast reduction, so now I'm like a double D. That was the only part of me that was ever large. And so, you know, I kind of look a little bit like a lollipop. I also have this big brown head. I recently discovered, I'm short, I'm 5'4", but I am similar measurements of taller women as far as the length of my legs and torso. My bestie is 5'8", and our shoulders are actually at the same spot, and our waists are at the same spot. I've come to the conclusion that I'm about 2 inches short in the neck and in the top of the head. So I should be 5'8", guys.
I hear that. My best friend is 5'8" as well, and I'm 5'3" if you really stretch it. And our hips are exactly level.
Yeah. It's funny if you look at a picture of me and two of my friends who are both taller. You know, all our shoulders and our hips are at the same place, and then like there's my head. Like I don't know.
I'm missing an inch between the bust and the shoulder somewhere.
Yeah, it's funny too, but I know that this is true because if I wear like a ball cap, it comes down to like here. You know, and so I'm like, I just don't have enough head. I was talking to my husband today. I'm like, maybe I should get a head implant. And he's like, please don't try to get a head implant. Your head is perfectly fine. I love your head the way it is.
Aww.
I'm not measurements. I do know my measurements. I'm about a 52-inch bust and a 44-inch waist, and my hips are like 46, 47 inches. You know, I wear about a 16 on the bottom. But on the top, in a dress, I'm easily a size 20 dress size. My pattern size, I usually go with like a 20, 22. I'm not super squishy. I don't know why. My fat's all hard. But, and like my butt, you know, that I have no hips, so it's like all butt. But yeah, it makes it, I'm not that nice hourglass shape. I wish I had hips, you know. I love Edwardian because I'm putting all the padding in that bad boy. So,
yeah. I don't have to pad for Edwardian.
I'm so jealous. That is like the one thing. I'm not particularly self-conscious about my body, but I notice other people's bodies, and whenever I see somebody with a nice set of hips, I'm like, yes, that is the thing.
All right, so let's let Mare introduce herself, and then we'll get into more chatting.
Hi. I'm Mare, also YouTubing under the name of Stringchronicity. I've been overweight to fat since I was about 7 years old. That's about the time when we moved from British Columbia to Ontario, and my mom did not want to go. And it's interesting because food issues can be so generational. And so I come from a Canadian family that my grandparents lived through the Depression era, and my parents, of course, had their issues that came from their parents. And so my mom was constantly fighting her own weight. And when we moved from BC to Ontario and Mom didn't want to go, I think we hit every single McDonald's or Burger King between Vancouver and Mississauga. My dad's words, I expected my family to come bounding out of the car. I didn't expect them to roll, which sounds cruel, but when you consider it was 1980 when it happened, people weren't as careful about their choice of words around the people that they care about. Yeah. And so throughout my entire high school years, it was a lot of, you're really pretty. I only wish that you looked a little bit like other kids. And so you grow up with that. And so I've never been a normal size. I'm the kid who went to Susie Shear with her friends to go shopping in Ottawa. It was a big thing. You got to go to the big city because I lived in a very small town outside of the Ottawa area. And they got to get clothes, and I got to watch them. And I don't think I really got any kind of really cool clothes that weren't things like hammer pants or a knit top that your grandmother would have worn with like the little applique butterfly on the bust that totally looks like it came out of your grandma's wardrobe in a time where everything was pop art prints and rainbows and unicorns and butterflies, but not the kind that's on your shirt. So it was really cool when I got into my 20s and Additionelle opened up in the city I was living in at the time. And all of a sudden it was like, wow, here are some clothes that I can wear. And Torrid now is just absolutely phenomenal. So I feel really great for a lot of the young girls who are in their teens now who can actually wear really cool clothes. Because when I was growing up, if it wasn't knits and it wasn't stuff from Giant Tiger or my grandmother's well-meaning purchases from places where she went, my mom made my clothes. So I grew up with a mother who sewed. And so I never had to learn how to sew because my mom did it. So when something had to be sized up, she was the one who slashed and spread the pattern. She was the one who did all of that work. And it's really kind of cool now that I'm in my 40s and rediscovering sewing, because there was a point in time during my 30s where I took it up trying to get some costuming done. And it was hard. It was not easy. And I remember telling my mom, why didn't you tell me it was so hard? And she said, well, because I always just did it for you. So now we've got this little thing going where I'll say, I'm trying to do this. And she says, great, tell me how it goes. So now I'm about a Torrid size, anywhere from a 2 to a 4, depending on the garment, because Torrid does not, Torrid goes by what they think is a standard. And I'm usually an hourglass, but with COVID and all that good stuff, I've gained a little bit more in my front and a little bit more in the butt. And so while I'm still really rather squishy, I'm not squishy in all the places that I usually squish. And their necklines can be rather weird because they're thinking somebody who is a H bust obviously has super wide shoulders like a linebacker. And I'm like, why is this neckline coming down to my waist? My bust is supposed to be, you know, big enough to be able to handle this. So now I'm trying to find things of, can I thrift my own wardrobe to fix that neckline so I can actually wear that really pretty shirt? So yeah, I really envy you guys who had your thin years, because man, that would be nice. I keep going after it. I'm one of those people where the keto diet works really, really well. It's just sticking to it. So I did really well for about a year, and then I rebounded, and boy, it brought friends. So that's me.
Great. All right, let's get into some
questiones. That's not actually a word, just so everybody knows. It's preguntas. But anyway, go ahead.
Let's talk about some personal preferences we have when we're sewing and that kind of thing. So, let's go over, you know, if you have a favorite style or time period and why you like it. Is there a certain element that you think is really flattering and, or that you just love the look of it, or whatever reason. So, let's start with that. Katie.
I want to air my unpopular opinion first.
Those are the cutest muffins.
Oh, thanks. My old work mom made them for me, and it's freezing in my basement. So unpopular opinion for a lot of plus size people, and even straight size people, I love Regency. A lot of people have told me, even like super slim people who have, you know, like model bodies, are like, I don't like Regency. It makes me look pregnant or whatever. And it doesn't, first of all, it doesn't have to. And secondly, you can see my 2 fingers. We all look pregnant together if it does. I think it's a beautiful time period, very comfortable and easy to wear, and it has something for everybody. And I am also very fortunate that I live in an area in the Midwest where there was history at that time. So I do a lot of living history, and there are accessible events, and I have a really great group of people that I do stuff with. So that obviously adds to it, but the fashion that's my favorite time period to make and wear.
No, I have to agree.
I have
It goes
stashes.
together really fast because the bodice seams are like this long.
I
Yeah, I
have
actually agree.
stashes of stuff for Regency, but I have not ventured into that realm yet. I do call it Pride and Pregnancy.
I think
That's
maybe
my Pinterest board.
maybe
I think-
because
Oh, sorry, you go.
oh sorry, I was gonna say maybe because there is that freedom of like it's just big and swishy, it's comfortable, and yeah, it's like if you look kind of pregnant, it's like what's the dress? It's fine. It's one of my favorites too, and I actually feel like because I'm very high waisted, it's like an empire waist
Yes.
is almost where my natural waist is. So it, even a lot of my modern clothes have almost an empire waist. So for me, yeah, I find it's actually one of my favorites too.
I miss the baby doll dresses of the 1990s. That was
Well, the
that was
90s are
that was
coming
my
back,
thing.
so.
Yeah.
I
don't know
it
whether
does
that's a
depend
good thing
on
or
your
bad thing.
individual figure, because like I can look pregnant in anything. I really excel at making people think I'm pregnant when I'm not. It's just how I'm built. When I was pregnant with my first, I had to tell parents at the daycare I worked by like a very early point in the pregnancy because it was very obvious already. With my third, I didn't realize I was pregnant and bought new jeans thinking I'd gained weight.
No.
So I just am shaped like a pregnant person when I'm not pregnant. So for me, I mean, I have a Regency dress and I enjoy it. It's comfortable and it's lovely, but 100% I look pregnant in it, but that's just kind of the territory. So
Yeah, I think a really important thing with Regency, especially for not super skinny people, is you need to have the underbust, the waistline in the exact right spot. Because if it's a little too high or a little too low, it doesn't work.
Like
So,
Bridgerton?
especially if it's a little too high. Like if it starts before your actual underbust, that just makes it look even worse. That's So it is a matter of finding the right spot for where that seam needs to go.
Yeah,
But
and that's
also, I
hard.
think it's figuring out where to put your big boobs. Like, I mean, if you've
Yes.
got like a lot of boobs and then like this snowman belly, then like
I gotta
trying
wear
to like, and I'm wearing all the white, so I'm
This is me
going
in my Regency stains all
full
the time.
Frosty.
It's-
yeah.
I'm full on Frosty the Snowman, and like, I mean, I haven't done it yet. I don't really know. I'm just guessing that I'm gonna look like Frosty the Snowman.
There are some other styles, like there are like wrap front and stuff. There's different options to create different like bust silhouette. I'm proportionally like I don't have that much in the top, so it's not a concern for me. But I've seen some bustier, costumers really pull it off. So I think that's your next project.
I do think also it depends on your skirt shape, because like the flat front skirt won't always give the same I'm really pregnant look that like a gathered skirt does. So I think it definitely depends on if your skirt is gathered or like what weight your fabric is too.
The only suggestion I did come out with was I did end up buying a proper busk, like a wooden busk for my stays, and that kind of helps build that nice straight line down the middle where at least it's tucked the belly in enough that it doesn't come off like I am ready to go into labor.
Yeah, we can chat after, Amber. I got you. I got you on this. I got the boobs and I got the belly. We got this.
Okay.
Amber and I are local to each other, so I can also come help if you want.
Perfect. Awesome.
Anyone else want to answer this question?
For me, it's actually one of the reasons I like the 1940s is because the way that they do shaping, fortunately, I'm wearing a 1940s dress right now, is what they'll do is just do a wide panel and then you just sew darts at the shoulder. And so you can make this incredibly wide panel to fit as much bust as you got. And you put darts at the top and either darts are gathering at the bottom, and then you just have all this room in the middle for as much boobage as you want to cram into it. So as well as like a lot of wrap dresses and wrap shirts, so you can just kind of, which also gives you a lot more room, I find anyway, and you can just adjust the length and the width of those so that they fit over your bust. So that's been the reason I don't do the 1920s or the 1960s, but...
Yeah, the same. I can't do the 20s. It's just not compatible. I actually have recently been really getting into like early 16th century. And I feel like that kind of like medieval Renaissance tipping point is actually just like really nice for everyone's body shape, because it's just fit it to your torso, and then you have gores and like this wonderful full skirt, and you know, and then you're starting to get into those like square or triangular bodices if you're going like towards Italy. And I don't know, I feel like there are lots of options for small shape adjustments to fit you, and that also is an era with a higher waist, so I feel like there's a pattern in what I go towards based on my body type. But yeah, I really like that era as well. I don't like any eras, I think, that like artificially alter your shape too much. That's just me.
I love those.
Yeah,
I'm all about those eras. All because I really don't have hips. So like even right now, like I lament, like I like wearing like form-fitting things right now, and I'm like, you know, can I get away with, like, is it wrong if I put hip pads in like this knit dress that I have on right now? Like I'm all about some hip pads, and so like I really love Edwardian. I like late Victorian and early Victorian, because like if you can like throw a ledge on, like my butt already just kind of sticks out, and so like bustle, it's not always clear that I'm not wearing a bustle, you know. But even in 18th century, even just give me some hip pads. I'm all about the hip pads, and I'm good. Yeah. But then even I like for more modern, I like 1950s because of that flare. You can't really tell I don't have hips. I hate the 20s because I'm just not built for it, you know.
Yeah, I'm the same. I also don't have any hips. I'm all boobs and belly. My waist measurement is actually bigger than my hip measurement. So I love my mid-Victorian. Like, give me some hoops, and we'll just pretend there's something there. Also, it's the only time I'm ever like, my waist looks so tiny. I also do dress 1940s, 50s vintage day to day. So I work at a preschool, so I'm literally that woman in a petticoat on the floor with the kids. So you can just take that picture with you wherever you're going next, because I just love it, and I feel like it just gives me a figure that I feel good in.
Rebecca, did you want to?
Yes. I wouldn't say I have an absolute favorite, or I've really never done the 1920s, probably for the same reasons. I mean, I'm pretty fairly apple shaped, but I'm smaller in the chest. I just have a wide back. But I really, when I made my kind of mid-Victorian corset, that was the first time I was like, I have a waist. So that made me very happy. So mid-Victorian, it's probably my favorite right now. I was afraid of the natural form era for a long time, but I've done that now, and I loved it. So
there's so much like hidden under padding and structure in natural form that people don't realize when they look at it, but like they still sometimes had like hoops and bustles on, even in natural form, which was no bustle. But
right. They were liars.
Things have also changed. Like what I like about my body, you know, my body's changed, you know, obviously, but what I like most about my body has changed over time. As someone mentioned the 1960s and not really doing the 1960s kind of straighter styles, but I love a shift dress. I mean, it doesn't look great on me, you know, because I'm, you know, kind of thick in the middle and no hips, but like that like skimming of everything, you can't really see any of the lumps, and I like the length. I like my legs, so I like to wear a short dress, and you know, I love the 70s of any time period. I like 1670s, 1770s, 1870s, 1970s, love them all.
For me, I think it's more the underpinnings that are the fascinating thing, like everything from the shapewear, like the corsetry, or going back even farther, the brassiere-like shift that they found in, I think it was a Castle's ruins. I can't remember the name.
Langberg shift.
Langberg, that's it. Yeah, and that's something that I would really love to explore. But then you see things like, of course, the padding from the Edwardian era, and I remember the padding from the 1980s, where you were taking shoulder pads and just putting them wherever you needed them. Like people don't realize it, but shoulder pads were going in people's bras, and yes, getting tacked into their dresses around their hips. definitely
I put shoulder
came
pads
from
in
the
my
Edwardians.
hips in my corset before, so
I got a round shoulder pad. Like even in the 80s when I was, I would do ruffles, and so like I would have a drop waist with lots of ruffles, like 3 layers of ruffles at my hips, and like 80s were fine. Like I mean, 80s were fine to me. Yeah, I had. You don't want to even know what my hair looked like or the glasses that I wore. Like my hair, Aquanet was my best friend.
Oh yeah.
but so it was big hair, big hips, big shoulders. Again, give me all the padding. I'll take it.
Well, they do make those little shorts now. They give you like booty and hip padding. I've seen them around. Yeah,
they do. I actually I don't want any more booty padding because like I literally try to sneak out. Like I'm like, oh, I have like the opposite body dysmorphism than other people have. I'm like, I'm small, I can fit into that space, and I am forever closing the door on myself with my butt. So like, I have definitely shut myself into. I have no idea where I fit, but yeah, I don't want to pad the back, but they do have like these like bike shorts with like these big hip cutlets in them, and I have them, and I'm always like, is it okay to wear these? And I will wear them.
Yes, it is okay.
There are no undergarment police.
Yes.
Exactly.
I'm gonna put these
You wear
on.
what you want to wear.
That's right. That's right. I just want to be balanced out a little bit.
Well, and
this head's gotta.
I wear petticoats to work. I really have nothing to say.
The interesting thing about history, like coming at this from a historical or historically flavored way, is that like we've talked about different periods where people padded and modified their bodies, and right now we're in an era of fashion where people are doing that with like plastic surgery, so it's very much only accessible to people who have time and money and resources. But people have been modifying their shape for thousands of years.
Yeah, instead of a corset being a garment you put on, fashion has internalized the corset and tried to force women to make themselves smaller.
Yeah, and I think there's like a mindset too that if you do anything to enhance it, like shapewear or padding, that you're like cheating somehow. But the other option is what every couple years when the ideal figure changes, are you going to have drastic surgery or go on some drastic diet? It's like, it's a very unhealthy relationship you end up having with yourself and your clothing and your body.
Yeah, this is the body I have, and I can use whatever resources are at my disposal to make it look how I want. And nobody gets to tell me that that's not okay.
And that's one of the privileges, I think, of being a larger sized woman, is you can wear more layers, and that affords you the opportunity to be able to pad out those areas that you feel need a little extra, or to, again, use shapewear to pull in slightly any areas, just to sort of give yourself your own little nip and tuck without any kind of modification to your actual body. Which, these are things that folks who decide that they're going to wear the bare minimum of clothing because they have thin body privilege can't really get away with. So
yeah, there's
I say let's take advantage.
There's not a lot of places to hide stuff.
Yeah, so let's just take advantage of it. We've got it, use it.
And I think
there's a lot of and a lot of celebrities who are kind of the ideals are also wearing I'm not great on modern fashion, but bodycon dresses and Spanx and all of that are just modern shapewear. Like, that's all they are. They're nothing fancy. They're nothing new. They're new fabrics. They're new ways of doing it. But it's the same idea it's always been.
And as someone who works with the film industry, the clothes are made custom. They are tailored custom. They are made exactly to fit each person perfectly. Even if they're buying jeans off the rack, they are ripped apart and remade to fit everybody exactly. So there's no chance your clothes will ever fit you as well as you see in every film, every TV episode, because everything is tailored down literally to the millimeter.
And it's almost like when clothing is made to fit you, you look so much better. So if you are a straight-sized person who can buy clothing off the rack that fits you better, it's almost like the perception will be that straight-sized people are more attractive because the clothing helps skew the perspective that way.
And yeah, it's almost like, large-sized people don't want to only wear tents all the time.
What?
No.
No.
How dare you?
How dare you say something so controversial and yet so true?
And it's almost like not all plus size people have, what was it somebody had just said, like massively large shoulders, and we're not all 16 miles tall. Some of us are, but I'm not one of them. So yeah.
I think we all already said something we don't want to try, which is the 1920s. Basically, I don't like things that don't show like my waist. Basically, like I want that little tuck in. Like I don't want shapeless stuff. And I think like I said, you know, that's what fashion tries to push so many larger women towards. Like no, we actually look better when stuff fits. And you know, I like, especially because I'm bigger at the bust. Like 1920s would just hang off my bust and then would not touch any of the rest of my body. And I'm like, we're not doing this.
But I also don't, and I know this is not popular either, but I don't hate that I have a belly. I don't hate it.
Yeah, I don't hate like, my body. Okay it's the only one I have. I'm gonna go with what works with it.
Now, I don't love that I don't have hips, but there's not really any, I don't tend to wear anything that, constricts, and as much as I love clothes, I actually don't like to wear them very often. If I had it my way and it were not cold, then I would just be naked all the time.
Like
but
no
I'm just
not all the time.
Yeah, like 100% of the time. Like if you come to my door, you know, be careful. I'm only wearing clothes right now because I have to. It's usually a dress because it's like one thing, and you know I have the chub rub, so like and this is why like things like hip pad shorts, because I'm already wearing shorts anyways because of the chub rub. But I'm one of those people that's wearing a minimum of clothes. I will wear a crop top, and I don't care if you don't like it. Like I'm hot. It's summer. I have a belly, but you know, so do normal people. You know, like I mean, I'm not unhealthy. I've been very skinny, and I'm dressing the same way, and I treat my body the same way that I did, you know, before. I'm not going to be mean to my body because it's rounder now. You know?
Even if you were unhealthy, first off, that's nobody's business, and secondly, you are still deserving of dignity and the ability to wear whatever the hell you want.
Absolutely.
Exactly. I have a friend of mine, and she is someone I know very well. She is as thin as a rail. She is gorgeous. She is a model, like professionally, and she is incredibly chronically ill. She is so sick all the time. She is so unhealthy and is barely able to function the majority of the time. You know how often people question her about her health? Never. And yet another friend of mine who is incredibly active, did like varsity sports, soccer, basketball, volleyball, everything, incredibly fit, but is a natural size 16, gets torn apart for their health every day. It's like body size is not an indicator of health, and health is not an indicator of worth. I am disabled. That doesn't make me less of a human being. And you saying I'm unhealthy is not helping. Yeah, I'm unhealthy, but I can't do anything about that. That's just how I am. And I still deserve to live a life without harassment and discrimination.
And what I choose to put on my body doesn't mean anything about how I feel about my body or what you should think about my body. It's like lipstick. If I wear red lipstick and my lips are not shaped like your lips, but we can both wear red lipstick. And it doesn't mean that, oh, I'm putting lipstick on, so there's something wrong with my lips. My lips are perfectly fine. They're fine with lipstick. They're fine without lipstick. I want to wear red lipstick today. Maybe you do too. Like, I mean, that's the same thing as like, if I'm going to put on leggings, if I'm going to put on a petticoat, if I'm going to put on like jeans and, you know, or whatever it is that I'm going to put on, I'm going to put them on just because I want to, like, and also because I'm trying not to be illegal and I'm in public.
I think it's about what's finding like what is psychologically comfortable for you, and that's very different for everybody. And in some cases, maybe there are parts of our body that we're not comfortable highlighting or enhancing, and that doesn't mean we're not body positive or whatever. But it's all about just, we all have to get through the day in this crazy and sometimes cruel world. And so I think having control, and that's what I like about sewing, having control over what it is that you put on your body and how you choose to be seen, going out dressed in a certain way. And I honestly feel like that psychological comfort factor probably does factor in with what our favorite eras of dressing are. And I feel like for me, that's probably why I don't like eras that are about padding, because psychologically to me, the idea of adding more is so wrong, because society says everything needs to be as small as possible, as small as possible. So yeah, adding something on feels so wrong. Yeah. You know, I had to make a bum pad once and I was like, why would I wear this? Oh my gosh. You know,
I still haven't made my bum pad.
I think that I do have, I'm not very self-conscious, but I do, like, there's a femininity, and I feel very feminine. I am very feminine, but like the fact that I don't have hips, you know, like it feels less feminine, because people are like, oh, they're just breeding hips, and you know, like hips are a womanly thing, and to not have them, I'm like, oh, you know, I don't feel less feminine, but I do associate that with being feminine, and I would like to have, you know, bigger hips. So like, you know, anytime that I can get myself some hips, I feel like a woman.
Yeah, well, I mean, you feel feminine, and you want to look the way you feel.
Yeah. Yep,
you know,
exactly.
I don't want to in any way construe the struggles that plus size people have with the struggles of the trans community, but it's a similar psychological process in, you know, you are a certain way and you want to be perceived as the way that you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also managing those other people's expectations. Like I said, one of the things that tends to hit me is that assumption that I'm pregnant, less so as I'm getting older and people know I'm single, but still. And people don't mean to, and it's the worst because people aren't meaning to be cruel, but it's, oh, come sit down, you know, and it's, they're trying to be nice, but the general assumption should be, unless you can actually see the baby making its exit, don't assume someone's pregnant.
Yeah, I
carry
weight on my stomach, so
it's none of your business.
Yep.
I've had that before. I was at a fish market and some lady's like, pregnant women shouldn't eat that fish. And I'm like, I'm gonna need, I will smack you with this fish.
Yeah.
Like, maybe they shouldn't. Like, okay.
I'm like, all right.
What's your point?
Watch me. I'm not pregnant.
Ultimate power move, you just take a bite of the fish at the fish market.
Yeah. Maintain eye contact.
All right, so let's talk sewing a little bit. Do you have either a pattern or a pattern company that was the worst experience ever?
Who's gonna say reconstructing history first?
Rebecca raised her hand, so she gets to go first.
Oh,
I'm actually not going to say reconstructing history, only because I've only made one pattern and it worked okay. But so I don't have a large frame of reference for them. But my Regency stays, the pattern that I used was not good at all. It was and oh wait, now I forgot the name of it.
Mantua maker?
Yes. And I used the same pattern line for my Victorian corset. Perfect fit, went together easily, no problems whatsoever. So I was like, okay, I'll use the same pattern company for the Regency stays. And it's also because I don't understand how gores work, but okay, that might have been me.
I really like Laughing Moon. I have had really good luck with their patterns, and I've been really pleased that... Hi, cat. Hello, kitty.
Hello, kitty.
I've been really pleased that over the years they've added to their pattern repertoire. They've branched out from... They only had a few, like they had a corset pattern and a pants pattern and like one other thing for a while, and now they've got dozens. And I've always had really good luck with them. I also, so this is a kind of a shameless plug, Past Patterns is a great pattern line for historical documentation. Their body block does not work for me. So if I'm buying a pattern, I'm buying it for the historical documentation and the instructions, because they show you really good techniques, but I'm probably not going to be able to use much of the pattern as is. There will be heavy alterations if I use it at all.
They're also an old, relatively pattern company. So like,
yes, they've been around for a long time.
Patterns were published like 20, 30 years ago, and they haven't been updated since.
I have had good luck with their Lewis and Clark, which is now an updated name pattern. It's a Regency dress pattern, and due to the fact that the original garment that it's based on was very flexible fit, it did work for me. And I was experienced enough of a sewist to be able to make the alterations that I needed. Like, I have very round shoulders, so I had to take a lot off of the sleeve head because there was just extra fabric there. So, you know, those are two pattern companies that I really like. One of them is very size inclusive, Laughing Moon, and I've had really great luck just using their patterns basically right out of the envelope. And then Past Patterns has top-notch historical documentation, but the drafting, because a lot of the stuff is copied from historical garments, may or may not work for me.
You mentioned Laughing Moon. I think, so when I talk about sewing, that I always say we, because it always involves my bestie. At the very least, she is pushing me to stop procrastinating, and at the most it's like me whining until she sews it for me, and I'll just iron the seams. I really hate sewing. I will do it, but I really hate it.
Yeah, I sew under duress as well. Like, there are parts of the process I enjoy, but like the actual making things, I'm in it for the results.
Yeah, exactly. And I love Laughing Moon, but I'm also not a good hand sewer at all, and so I like that Laughing Moon patterns will give you options for hand sewing versus sewing, but I feel like, you know, it skews towards, you know, hand sewing. We made my husband's 18th century, it was very easy, and he's very straight sized, so so it was very easy to make it right out the box. But I prefer like truly Victorian because it's heavily machine sewed, like the it's just, you know, that's really the easiest for me. I also like Black Snail pattern.
I was a little disappointed in Black Snail. I used their Regency dress and it turned out okay, but I was the biggest bust size in that pattern, and I was like, my bust is not that big. It was a front closure dress, so you could probably just extend it and like it would ruche up. But yeah, I only have like a 44-inch bust, and it was barely big enough for me.
Yeah, that's the same thing I made, and I also ran into, there was just too much fabric. Like I haven't tried that. I look like I'm drowning in it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I used her for an Edwardian dress pattern.
I used the Black Snail Edwardian corset pattern. I actually have a video of it on my channel of me making the mock-up for the Edwardian. It's a simplified S-curve shape. According to the pattern chart, I was supposed to be a size 30 in that, but when I made the size 30, it was way too big. Like, I could lace it fully shut and it did nothing. So I had to like cut down to the 24, I think.
Yeah. So their sizing might be a little inconsistent then.
Is, like, because like my bust measurement is 52 inches, and that's what the size 30 is listed as.
Yeah.
But it was way too big when I made it. I mean, once I cut it down to what in theory was too small, and it fit, it looked fine, but yeah.
Okay, I'm going to be honest. Corset patterns, though, my brain does not wrap around the negative ease thing. So, like...
Yeah, I mean, that just might... Like, I don't know if it's, you know...
Yeah, and it's like, are the measurements on the pattern as laced? Does it include the gap? Blah, blah, blah. So,
that was not included. Like, is this waist measurement your actual waist measurement, or is it what you're aiming
corseted
for?
waist, yeah.
Like, that was not clear on the corset pattern either.
Yeah.
I will say the worst pattern I dealt with was a Reconstructing History one, and it was at the time Reconstructing History was the only 17th century corset or stays pattern available, and it was the pink, the light pink stays that are in the V&A, which are absolutely beautiful, and it was like a joint pat. Like, this was as much the pattern was horrible as but like it was. The pattern was for a back closing set of stays, and it included instructions on how to alter it to the front opening with the stomacher, but the instructions did not make sense, and like it wasn't a size issue, it was just a bad pattern.
See, mine was a size issue. I bought the 18th century riding habit pattern.
I also think it was badly graded too. So like
this was before J.P. Ryan had a riding habit pattern. So this was the only game in town for an 18th century riding habit pattern, and I was cutting out a plus size, and the sleeve came down past my knee. And like, I'm not that short. Okay. Like,
I've heard so many, I don't even try with.
No,
they're not worth the paper they're printed on.
Yeah.
The one
Melissa wanted to say something.
Right. The one I've had amazing luck with and want to give a huge shout out to is Charm Patterns. They only do mid-century right now, but they are amazing. I bought a princess coat pattern from them, and they had different pieces for every bust size. So you could be like a size 18 and an A cup, or a size 2 and I think you went up to an E cup, and you could change out the bust pieces. They were all interchangeable between pattern sizes, which obviously for me is a big deal. I desperately want them to branch out past just 1950s stuff, but it's gorgeous, and it's exactly the way to make patterns that you can kind of mix and match for your actual shape. And
I have a night and day dress, and it's the same thing.
Yeah, I ended up I always make a few sizes too big because I need something to fit the bust. And I made this, and it fit my bust and didn't fit anywhere else, which has never happened. So I ended up taking it in quite a lot to fit the rest of my body. But they're amazing, and so is Wearing History. They make some really great stuff that's really size inclusive and fits very nicely.
Wearing History does not go large enough for me. I am like 6 inches too big for Wearing History.
No.
I will say though, Charm Patterns, Gertie recently announced that she's adding a larger size line. Like, it'll be a slow process like, for some patterns.
I heard that.
Like her day and night pattern has 72 options, so like that's going to take forever to add like more sizes to.
It's a lot.
But she is working on that for Charm Patterns, so I'm looking forward to that because there's so many cute things, and the patterns don't come big enough for me. So
I'm gonna hop in on Wearing History real quick. Some of the patterns also don't go large enough for me, but I will say that they are a one-person company. She doesn't have Lauren, who runs it, is a lovely person. She doesn't have a book deal. She doesn't have staff. She has herself, her husband, and her kid, and she is the one doing all of the pattern work that you see.
Yeah, I remember it was a couple of years ago now, at least. Like, she was doing research about widening her size range, and it just like it was for a single person business ownership. She was just too expensive.
It was very prohibitive. She did look into it, and
she tried because so many people have asked about it, and I
understand
that, but they don't fit me. So
yeah, no, and like the instructions and everything are really good. So like for the Kalkbrocken project that I sort of aired today on my channel, I used a Wearing History pattern that was not quite big enough, but I sized it up. You know, it was a skirt, so it was easy to add width to the skirt.
And
so there's stuff that's close enough and can do it. Yeah, you did too. So,
I'm just happy when somebody makes a pattern, at least for me to start off with. Historically, I never really followed instructions anyways, because in the past when I'd sew things for costuming, nothing was in my size, whether it was too small or so I always just kind of branch out and see how things fit. And so now, like, to be able to have the luxury to cut a pattern in my size and have it fit, which is what happens to me consistently with Truly Victorian. I know that I've heard some for smaller sizes that that they've had some fit issues, but for me, like, how you take those measurements, you cut it out, there's nothing like, you sew it, it works great. I'm not confused. But
I love the Truly Victorian fit method of doing the adjusted.
Yeah, I completely love it.
Adjusted back front measurements.
Yeah, and it fits all my, like, I have weirdly fat arms and weirdly small, like everything just, yeah, I'm like, this is great. Yeah, but I'm making the Amalia jacket from Scroop Patterns right now, and I found that it's beautiful. It's beautiful and beautifully done, but a couple of things is that, I don't hand sew. And so, like, trying to adjust this for machine sewing and, the parts that are, like, it's just kind of a nightmare. And also I find that it's really short, and I'm not, I had to lengthen the jacket an inch, and I'm not long torsoed. So and I still feel like it's a little bit too short. So I'm surprised that, I haven't seen that anywhere, that, no one said that it was too short or any problem.
I know a lot of people, when they were testing it, said they were having issues with the sleeves. I haven't actually, like, I keep meaning to pick up that pattern, but I haven't.
Yeah, I've been interested in it too.
I've made it.
Oh,
you just made it recently, didn't you?
Yeah, fairly recently. I actually didn't have any problems with the sleeves, oddly enough.
So they might have been fixed, because as I said, I knew a couple people who were testing it, so they mentioned it then.
It was.
I did actually cut a smaller sleeve than But you know, the measurements were on there than I normally do, and I have big arms, so I was surprised to do that. But.
Yeah, mine oddly ended up, I was bigger than the largest size measurement, so I just cut out the largest size, and it actually ended up a little too big. That might have been I mean, and I tested it over my stays and everything, and the mock-up fit, and then when I put it together, it was too big. So it was probably human error.
Yeah. No. That's sewing gremlins.
Yeah.
It's never
okay.
our fault. It's sewing gremlins.
I'm finding that it's a matter of just finding a pattern that you can work with. Like for me right now, it's the Truly Victorian, because they do go up to at least near my size range. And I've been watching quite a bit of the Closet Historian, I think it is, because she's talking a lot more about making your own body blocks. So I figure that between having a good start to a pattern, because right now I'm exploring the Victorian and Edwardian eras, that it will give me that ability to expand from there if I need to size up, which is what I did with the drawers. Is I actually used some of the different sizing methods that were available to size up.
I've actually gotten a lot into like drafting or Frankensteining things. So, and I know like not everyone's brain works like this, but for some garments, I can kind of just like figure out the shapes. So like I made like an Edwardian shirtwaist, and I was like, oh, basically I just need to fit it here and here, and the rest of it's kind of, you know what I mean? And so I'll just draft it exactly to my measurements. Yeah, so I have like a stays block that I made, and like just different things like that. And I find that's really fun, because then you don't have to worry like, oh, what size is this? It's just size me. Or if I'm making something, I'll be like, oh, I like this sleeve, so I'm gonna, you know, use this sleeve again. So yeah, kind of like putting things together is something that I find very helpful as well, because I also have like weirdly large arms. Like I feel like proportionally they're too big for my upper body. They're like, they match my hips, they don't match my like my waist and my tiny little shoulders. In my video I put out on Friday, like that was my issue. Like I measured it, I got the strap length, and then I tried it on the straps like 3 inches too long.
I really like using the Truly Victorian patterns as like blocks or slopers. I once I get it like the decade era style whatever pattern fitted, then I use that and just do all kinds of different things with it.
Yeah, if you find a body block that some pattern company uses that works for you, yeah, absolutely, you can do anything you want with it once you know it fits.
Yeah, because that's been my problem, is finding something that's actually even near my size, because I'll take a look at Black Snail and their sizes are wildly nowhere near where I am for a size that they say is supposed to be near where I am. Or I think Scroop was another one that I was looking at that didn't really come close to my dimensions. So it's like, you know what, I'm going to stick with Truly Victorian for the time being. And when the time comes, maybe I'll have a better idea of how to make a body block so that I can make that Morgan Donner-esque pinafore dress. Because that is a goal.
So on that note, what are your goals or hopes as a plus size customer going forward, whether it's for yourself or the community at large?
For myself, I'm really hoping to kind of get to that place that Odessa was talking about. I'm not at a place where I'm comfortable doing that for myself. I've kind of been doing that for my daughter, because she's 10, and therefore not only is she straight sized, she's literally straight, which makes fitting a lot less chancy. So yeah, kind of tiptoeing more into getting things fitted. I've just started branching out into kind of using the gridded patterns and things like Patterns of Fashion or the Victorian Dressmaker. And that's been an adventure. But at least then I just blame the book when it doesn't fit, and it's not my fault.
I'd like to see more patterns. I'd love to see more patterns that just are for those of us that aren't, that go for historically adequate, like, you know, and machine sewing, you know, a lot of things. And I'm not a great sewer, and I don't, you know, I know that with modern patterns, I'm a good enough sewer that I'm not really paying attention to the pattern anyways, and I'm just sewing what I'm sewing. But with historical patterns, I kind of need to read and understand a little bit more, and if I'm doing that and trying to hand sew, it's not going to go well. There's going to be a lot of blood, and I'm going to be naked. I stress undress, so I'm going to be naked because I can't finish the clothes, and also because I'm stress undressed.
I think
the directions are just suggestions anyway.
I think for me, I want to improve my techniques, because I kind of did start off as like one of those people who's like, oh, I have this piece of clothing I like, let me just basically base something around that, and like drafting things. So I didn't learn how to like properly follow patterns and properly do good techniques. So I want to bone up on that technique so I can do things that are more challenging and outside of my comfort zone, and learn how to do them from instructions instead of just basing it off what I already know. I also kind of want to like do some more historically adequate stuff. A lot of what I do is like historically inspired day wear. But I want to do some like really, you know, like those really like wow museum recreation pieces. I would love to do something like that. Just like have a wow piece in my portfolio, but I'm not there yet.
And I just like to see more historical costumers that are plus size, or costumers, period. I'd just like to see more of that. I you know, if for no other reason than to be like, oh yeah, I could do that. That I like to look at other plus size costumers,
envision it on yourself,
and be like, oh, I that's a great idea. This is how that will look on me. Yeah.
And I think I also want to say, because like 4 or 5 people, as I've been kind of watching the comments go, have said something along the lines of, I started making something, but I wasn't sure it was going to fit. You know what? Skinny people get to turn out in things that don't fit properly either. So you've got just as much of a right to turn up to whatever you want to turn up, or take whatever pictures you want, and have it fit badly at the beginning, because we all got to start somewhere.
And I think like this panel and our channels, like ideally, I think as like a goal too, is to inspire people to like not be afraid of that. And that's something I dabble in my channel too, is just like styling videos and like having a sustainable wardrobe that you wear. And I've had people leave comments like, wow, I would love to do cottagecore, but I'm plus size and I felt like I couldn't do that. I felt like this style is not for me. I don't see my body type represented in costuming or in alt fashion. And so I feel like in a small way, just us being out here and having this panel and having our own videos, it puts that body diversity out there, and it helps other people see that they can dress however they want too, and they can do costuming, and they can, you know, and I feel like that's really important, and it warms my cold dead heart anytime I get a comment like that. So
I'm kind of the same opinion, because I remember the 1990s Toronto, picture it, Sicily, 1942. I recall being in downtown Toronto when goth was the big thing, and I really, really wanted those sort of velvet, goth-like, Victorian-esque clothes that you could only find at 3 different boutiques on Queen Street West. And I'm now in a position where I can make that stuff. So, and with being in the post-Panini or
the pandemonium.
Panini, the pandemonium era, we're getting to a point where having to dress up to impress a bunch of coworkers is less and less a thing. So my chances of walking into an office and having somebody go, "Oh, I had no idea that you actually had a waistline," is less of a issue. Like, I mean, I actually walked in, I think one Halloween, wearing a corset that I'd had the husbeast just cinch me right in. And just the looks on so many different network analysts' faces was just, really? I had absolutely no idea you even knew what that kind of shapewear was.
Everyone's gone feral now, so we all just wear what we want. I think that's the agreement now.
Exactly.
Like,
so if I want to goth out my history bounding, I think that is an awesome idea. I'm over 40 years old. I no longer give a fuck.
Do what you want. That's actually something I'm working on for this fall, is like a video on like how you can like stealth in history bounding into like office wear. Because I feel like that's where we're all at right now. Like, I don't want to go back. I can't wear that pencil skirt and that boring white shirt, you know.
Or you know, business casual of slacks and a polo shirt, which is what the guys tend to get away with, where we have to have a silk blouse and a pair of nice jeans.
A blouse that,
don't get me started.
You can't have cleavage in a work environment, and it's like, I've already cut off 5 pounds of them. I can't cut off anymore. They're gonna be here.
Cleavage isn't always under your control.
Breast exists, and you're just gonna have to come to terms with that at some point.
I actually have never had to, like, you know, nobody knows what's under my white lab coat, so I tend not to worry about that. But yeah, I got lucky that way. Although I have like sewed big coal buttons on my white lab coat for snowman season.
Yeah, I think for me, one of my biggest goals is I make a lot of stuff. Like I have 2 IKEA racks full of costumes that I've made over the past 15 years, there or take. I am horrible about documenting what I do. Like I go to events and I'm always the person of like, I should ask someone to just take some pictures that are like, look, I made a thing, but I never would. So like, I need to be better about representing myself as a plus size costumer so that other people can see that there are lots of us. So that is definitely something I need to do for myself.
To tack on to that, I found that as a larger person, I'm usually the person behind the camera. And
I've taken tons of photos for other people, and they do not offer to take photos for me in return.
Exactly. And it's a kind of privilege, I think, on their part, that they expect to have pictures taken, but they don't really expect to reciprocate. Because why would you want to have pictures taken of yourself? And it's something where, you know, my other half has expressed an interest in doing photography. So I've said to him more than once, tell you what, learn how to take pictures of me that are flattering. That'd be great. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that he would. Yeah. And in that case, it's a matter of, you know, maybe we should take a leaf out of Steen's page and find a photographer that we can work with that we're willing to give money to, instead of giving money to somebody who is mediocre at it, that we can work with to actually put our best faces forward. Because I find that a lot of the time, if you're a larger person, you make do with what you can get rather than holding people to a higher standard, which is what a lot of people who know that they're pretty and know that they look presentable tend to do. Because if you are that fresh-faced, beautiful girl, you're not going to waste your time with someone who's not going to give you what you're looking for.
Wait, so but I feel like I'm that fresh-faced, pretty, beautiful girl.
Exactly, and you are. And I think that we all really need to start seeing ourselves in that light of, we aren't the frumpy aunt, we aren't the person behind the camera, we aren't the person who's going to make the dress for the nice looking person. We are the nice looking person. We need to stand up for ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's true too. And I also, you know, for the plus size community, that, like, you know, sometimes I am quite literally the frumpy aunt, and I'm okay with that too. But like, sometimes I'm a total glamazon. Like, you can't tell me I'm not a supermodel sometimes. Like, I'm very confused. I'm like, oh, I look like Naomi Campbell.
I clean up really well when I actually try. Otherwise, swamp hag.
Yeah. And either way, I'm good in both lanes. But yeah, but I never take pictures, not so much because I don't want to have pictures of myself, but I just always forget. I'm usually like just in the moment, and you know, there's always somebody to take a picture, but I always forget.
Well, just now, like, after being isolated for over a year, I'm busy talking my face off as hard and fast as I can to get socialization in before we all have to go back to being indoors, because some MFs won't wear masks or get vaccinated, that I forget to take pictures because I'm like, my people.
So I think let me say one thing real quick, and then we can go. We are just about at 9:15 my time, If you have questions for us, toss them in the chat box. Even if you've already asked it, could you just repost it so I don't have to sit here and scroll forever looking? So yeah, toss some questions in if you have any for us. And Rebecca, you wanted to say something.
Oh yes, I was just going to say, as far as goals for the future, and I think going off of what everyone else has said, just being visible, you know, and being out there. And we're gorgeous, y'all. I mean, seriously.
What a good looking panel.
Look at us.
We're a bunch of cutie fucking patooties, okay? Like,
and so like when I was first, you know, when I first decided to document my sewing journey on the YouTubes, like I couldn't find anyone who looked like me, you know, so I was like, well, I guess I'll be them. I'll look like me and maybe someone else will watch, you know. So, and I think like for me going forward, just getting better skills, because my skills have improved an insane amount just in the year and a half that I've been doing YouTube, or year and 9 months or whatever it's been. And you know, if I can help someone else think, oh, I can do this too, then
yeah,
amen, hallelujah.
Yeah, that's exactly my goal as well. I'm pretty happy with where I'm at in terms of my skill set and what I'm doing in terms of living history and my ability to make things that I enjoy for that. But when I started out, again, like you said, Rebecca, there was no one that looked like me. I was making Lord of the Rings costume. I had Miranda Otto and Liv Tyler to look at. I have not and never will look like either of them.
Hey, you have Rosie Cotton too.
Oh yeah, okay, but
for like, you know,
she was in there. She was in there for like 30 seconds, even though she was adorable. Not enough screen time. But I did it anyway. And like looking back, that was really freaking brave of teenage Katie to do that. And I hope that maybe somewhere some other teenager has a little bit easier of a time of it because people like us are doing things like this panel. So I guess, you know, I feel like if I can be the adult that I would have loved to have as a newbie or a kid or whatever, that's what I want to strive for.
Yeah, be yourself, everyone else is taken, and strive to be the adult that you wish you had as a child.
Yeah.
And give yourself permission to be both the debutante and the laundry gremlin. Whatever suits you that day. We have range, darling. You know, it can be it all.
And you know, being an adult isn't even necessarily required. Just being the mentor you wanted as a
absolutely.
Thing.
Yeah, there are so many younger people in this community that I look up to so much. And so, you know, some of us are teens and some, well, not maybe in this panel, but you know, some costumers out there are teens and some are senior citizens, and we all belong here. No matter if you're straight size, plus size, black, brown, indigenous, white, this hobby is for you. This field is for you. If you need someone's permission to get involved, here it is. You have permission. Go do the thing.
It wasn't nice to call me a senior citizen, Katie.
Plus size people have always existed.
Yes.
Like, we're not new. It's not like we got invented in 1995 or something.
It's the same with like people of color have always existed too, and
Exactly.
in places that you don't see in like historic films depicted. But yeah, everybody's out there, and that's why it's so nice to have different diversity in the community, because you can really have a chance to bring something more than the same old boring dress that everybody makes based off some rich person who got rich off the backs of poor people. You know, like you can bring just so much more. So I think that is what is kind of fun about the historical costuming community, is there is such a range in sizes and backgrounds.
And the costume that you wear doesn't have to portray, like, I mean, I can be the, like, you know, I mean, I'm obviously mixed race and I'm short and I'm fat, but I can be whatever tall, thin, white costume person. Like, I can wear whatever I want to wear.
You can be Marie Antoinette if you want.
I can be Marie Antoinette if I want.
And you got the attitude. You could pull it off so much better than I could. Like, I can see it.
The thing that completely changed my perspective about historical costuming is I would go to like the V&A Museum or other museums and see all these really tiny outfits, or look online to try to buy patterns and couldn't find anything that was like larger than a waist 28. And the one word shifted my perspective entirely, and it was going from, why are all these clothes and patterns only available in small sizes, to why are all these unused, unworn clothes only available in small sizes and patterns? Yeah. And it's like, if there's 1,000 unworn, unused patterns, that's because that one was in the least demand, not because it was
survivor bias is a huge thing in extant clothing,
because everything else got used and got cut down and changed and altered, but if something was so too tiny to be used,
and like all of these things were like teenagers wearing them too.
Or you'd wear it a couple times and then get pregnant and never be able to wear it again.
One of the things that's been really illuminating for me is actually, because my family has pictures going back to the late 1800s, it's been actually taking a look at pictures of my great-grandparents and great-great-grandparents and realizing that, there's some cinching in of the corsetry here, and then somebody that you see who looks rather small when they're in their early childbearing years now looks rather portly, or has a large rack and is wearing less shapely clothing, or it's shapely but it's cut in a different way. And it's been really illuminating for me, realizing that, yes, these are the people that I come from, but look at their clothes. They obviously were able to clothe themselves at these sizes.
Being stylish wasn't size prohibitive like it is now with a lot with modern off the rack clothing.
When everything's custom made,
you can be as stylish as you want.
So, Flying VS Farm Historical, who is a new costumer, or at least some of us have recently met them, has a couple of questions. One is, what do you all do about shoes? I generally fit into just either a regular or a wide 9.5, so shoes aren't a huge problem for me. I find it tends to be more cost that dictates what shoes I buy than size.
Yes.
Yeah. It depends on the manufacturer.
So I reiterate what I said in the disability panel, is more shoemakers need to make flats. As a disabled person, I can't wear heels. A lot of people can't wear heels. If all you make is heels, you're excluding a huge amount of people make flats.
I just like really good quality shoes. Arch support is a big deal for me, and standing on my feet is a big deal for me. So I never wear cheap shoes. My shoes are always great. But if they don't quite go, then again, I'm not a historically accurate kind of person. I'm a historically adequate, and I'm not going to sacrifice my foot health for
It's the same for me. I have totally flat feet, so I need that support, or I get shin splints really bad. So I usually do modern shoes that like work. I do have one pair of American Duchess that are, again, I can just usually wear a normal width, but yeah, just like a nice pair of leather boots or leather flats that doesn't stand out as shockingly modern, I find is usually just best, because I don't want to sacrifice my health. I broke my ankle a couple years back, and like, I'm not doing it again.
No,
never again.
I do have a lot of American Duchess shoes. I find those shoes to be great, and mostly leather. So even if my foot is a little bit wider, but I can normally wear straight size shoes, and leather stretches. So
yeah, I've got incredibly wide feet. My ankles are kind of straight sized. Sorry, not normal. They're actually really skinny. But my feet themselves are quite wide, and I literally, after wearing them off and on for a year, have just hit the point where one of my American Duchess Victorian boots have started to actually fit without causing like issues. They just have finally stretched out.
Yeah, American Duchess works for some people, but there are other shoe companies out there that either do more varied sizes or custom size for around what the price point of American Duchess is. So in terms of accessibility, shoes are often more of an expensive item, but it is worth it to save up for something that is going to be healthy and comfortable for you. So definitely reach out. I think any of us can give you a list of places that to look. I have a list of my own of places that I want to get shoes from.
Yeah.
Beyond American Duchess.
I'm sorry. I was just gonna say a lot of modern styles too are historically adequate. Like if you look at modern Chelsea boots, that's very mid 19th century. And like Thursday boots is one of my favorites. They make incredible boots that are just very comfortable, cork insole. And they make a great Chelsea boot. And I'm like, just stick a bow on it and you've got like mid 19th century. There you go.
And Oxfords or saddle shoes would be from like the late 1920s on to like the almost 1960s.
Yep.
Like flat, perfectly, even for women or female presenting people, Oxford flats are perfectly fine.
I find that shoes are usually the most normal sized part of my body. So finding shoes is usually not a problem. It's usually a matter of checking which manufacturer is fitting best. And that's why I find it helpful to be in a place where I can actually try on a shoe before I buy it. It's one of the reasons why I haven't bought American Duchess, because at least something that comes up to my ankle, usually something's going to fit, but then you wind up with the outlier like Fluvog, who I tried on a pair of their shoes and couldn't even get the vamp up over the top of my foot. So, and I wasn't the only person who had that problem. Somebody else that I went with to try on the shoes had the same problem. So, you know, it all depends on the manufacturer.
Some manufacturers just use lasts that don't work for people, and that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with your body. It just means whatever foot form they were using doesn't match your foot, and that's okay.
So something like, for instance, knee boots, that's going to be a problem because larger sized women have larger sized calves, and finding those is like finding a needle in a haystack.
Yeah. It's like finding a needle in a needle stack.
Pretty much.
So we are just about at a half an hour. And while we have another question, I think it's a good question. I think it's going to be it would be a long answer for each of us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to repost this question in the comments. And if you guys want to answer it in text afterwards, because this is definitely something we can all go into depth and spend like another half an hour talking. And and it's late, so I don't want to keep anyone who has to work tomorrow up super late. I will tell you the question, which is also from Flying VS Farm, which is, how do you all go about researching your costumes to make plus-size costumes? So
that is a whole nother panel.
Yeah,
so yes, put that in.
Get very in-depth, and I don't want to not answer it. So that's why I'm going to put it in the comments.
Well, okay, so I am going to say I know several people in the costume community are planning on releasing research videos very soon after Posey.
Yeah, there's several people doing that soon.
Definitely keep an eye out for those. I have one in the works, and there's several other people. Yeah, so keep an eye out for those. But yeah, we will definitely be happy to talk to you in text about that, just because that's a whole nother hour long video.
The only other thing I wanted to say was, for me, the like miraculous change was learning that the previous term for plus size was stout, because it's a lot easier to find ads for things if you have the search word.
Yeah,
for me, for most Victorian and kind of 20th century, for a lot of those times it was stout.
A lot of it is learning search terms, like any research is learning the right search terms.
Yeah, and like Mrs.
in terms of things like
Mrs. is plus size now, but in the Victorian period it was teenagers were Mrs. So like stuff like that also. Yeah. But yeah. So does anyone have any last thing they want to say?
You belong here. I don't care what size you are. You belong in this place, in this hobby, and you can do the thing. And we would love to help you do the thing.
There's so many things to worry about. Why worry about your body so much? If we all woke up tomorrow and decided not to worry about our bodies, like, think how much mental energy we could, put towards other things, and
also,
what we could
get
accomplish.
One body, so
at this point, I've been sewing for this body for so long. If it changed into a straight size body overnight, I'd be pissed. I'd have to learn that shit all over again.
And yeah, and don't always look for the next. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, if we all woke up tomorrow and loved ourselves, think of how many terrible industries we could put out of business.
Yeah, like the man, love your body.
Love your body where it is now. Like, don't worry about what it could be or what it should be.
Don't wait for a goal or a size you want to be. Don't put stuff off. Like, just make it now.
Yeah, live your life right now.
Later, but make it now. Don't wait.
Yeah.
And don't hide from the camera. It's literally my pet peeve. I worked with Girl Guides, which is Girl Scouts in Canada, for years and years, and I'd have leaders go in front of the girls, go running and going, oh, nobody wants me in the picture. No one wants to see that. Shut up and get over here.
I think also recognizing that everybody has insecurities about their body. The most gorgeous person who you look at and think, I would be happy if I had their body, they're not happy with that body. I see so many costumers who are thin and gorgeous and like meet the beauty standard, post pictures of themselves, and the first thing they say about this amazing costume that they've created is, sorry about my body, I need to lose a few more pounds and then this will look better. And it's like they're devaluing themselves and all the work they've done because of the body that they're wearing it on.
Yeah,
and I hate to see that, because
you
worked so hard, you've done something amazing. Why apologize for your body, which is kind of beside the point.
Yeah, make all the things.
You're a babe.
Yep. So I want to thank you guys so much for coming and being on this panel. I want to thank everyone who stayed up to watch this. Let's see, there are 36 watchers right now. As I said, this panel, once YouTube processes it and all that fun stuff, will stay on my channel. I'm not going to delete it or anything. So this is going to be here forever, or until YouTube dies. So once again, thank you guys. I had a great time. I hope you guys did too. And we'll be around on the YouTubes and the Instagrams. So,
and our links are all below.
Yep, I linked everyone's channel. I will add Instagram links. I was rushing when I put the description together.
You did an amazing job, and thank you for hosting this.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone. Bye. Thank you.
Bye, y'all.
Hold on, I gotta switch tabs to. My mouse is wireless, so like after a while, it's like, nope, we're not doing anything anymore.
Me too. It's so freeing.
End stream. Bye.
Bye. A few people like.